All right, today we're gonna do a request from a subscriber of mine, and she wanted to see some bread making in the vintage Vitamix. And it's fairly simple. The recipe really hasn't changed from decades ago to now, because I just compared my old school recipe for this machine to the new ones, and the only difference I saw was the recipe called for a quarter cup less water in the new recipe. So I'm just really I'm actually pretty happy that the recipe really hasn't changed from the old machines to new machines. So we're just going to do that, and I'm going to describe all the ingredients I have. It's very simple. One thing that I don't have is whole wheat kernels to grind up in the Vitamix. I just can't really get wheat berries very cheap around my area, unless I go to like Trader Joe's or something, and then they're just gonna, tear my skin off with how much they charge. So I just have regular flour from the stores, whole wheat flour, 100%, and it's a King Arthur brand, but you can use any kind of flour you really want, whole wheat flour for this recipe. And this is gonna be 100% whole wheat bread. It's pretty nutritious, but it's nowhere near as nutritious as when you grind the whole wheat berries fresh. And so what I have on the side here is 2.5 cups of the whole wheat flour. I have warm water. It's about 110 degrees water. I don't have a thermometer or anything like that right now, but I just fill up the a cup in the see, I got a cup and a quarter of water here, because I can always add more, but I have a cup and quarter of water that I just kind of run the faucet until I feel that it's warm. Since we're 98.6 degrees, if it feels warm, it should be good enough for the yeast. You don't want it too hot to kill the yeast. So I have 1.25 cups water here with 1 tablespoon of honey, and I'm going to need that to feed the yeast. And I have 1 packet of yeast, or 1 tablespoon of yeast, and I'm just going to throw this in right now because I have to proof it. Because the yeast I use I keep it in a refrigerator, and it's like a jar of yeast. So I'm just going to stir this up, and they're going to feast on that honey, and it's going to take about 5 minutes before it proofs. Basically, you're looking for a foamy layer on the top. And I've done this many times, and I'm really confident that my yeast is going to work. But other thing I have is a tablespoon of oil. You can use any kind of oil. I'm using vegetable oil. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to show you the technique involved here, because one of the things about the old school Vitamix is there's a little bit of technique involved to do certain things, and one of the techniques is called the tap release technique. And that's going to be the machine is not plugged in, so you're going to see the forward reverse impact switch here. Okay, and the technique is very simple. First, you're going to grind your wheat. If you're going to grind your wheat, you're going to have it on high speed in the forward position. You're going to run that. You're going to grind the wheat for about 2 minutes. If you're using just flour, I just kind of, since I store my flour in the refrigerator, I just run it for about a minute just to warm it up a little bit. But for the kneading part of it, it's very simple. All you have to do is, they want you to make a fist and just tap the impact switch and just kind of jab it about 5 to 7 times. And you just do that to kind of like just jar the blades in one direction, just like this. And you just do that, scrape the dough down into the blades again, and then you just do it again. And you just keep doing that about 8 times, and the dough will be kneaded up, and you just throw it in the pan. And just make sure your pan is greased up, because it will stick to the bread pan. And I'm using a standard loaf pan. I don't remember what size it is, but it's just, a generic one you can buy. And I just spray that with a little bit of an oil spray. So let's get started while my yeast is proofing. It's already getting to work. It's already starting to bubble. I'm going to plug my machine in. And I'm gonna dump in, this is 2 cups of flour. The recipe calls for 2.5 cups. Let me see if I can do this without making a mess. All right, that's 2 cups. Get everything in there. Here's the rest of it. There's the other 1/2 cup. And I'm just gonna put this for about a minute on a high speed just to warm up the flour a little bit. Ooh, what I also want to do is add a little bit of salt. And I just add, the recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt, if I recall. And this is just for flavor. You can add as much or as little as you want. Yeah, it's 1 teaspoon. So I just kind of use a pinch like that. That's about a teaspoon. I'm just going to run that on high speed. Alright, I can already feel the container is warm, so that's going to be good for me. I don't want it too hot because it's going to kill the yeast. So let me just kind of finger test this. Oh yeah, it's nice and warm. Nice and warm, and here's the yeast that is already proofed up. And you can't, I don't know if you can see it, but then there'll be like a little bit of a layer of foam on top of the water, and that's exactly what you're looking for. So we are essentially ready to add that. So we're going to add the oil. Okay. And now we're going to add the water, yeast, and honey mixture. That's in there. And now we're going to mix it up. To mix it, just leave it on high speed, and you just use the impact lever and forward for 1 second, go all the way down to reverse for 1 second, and then let go, and that's it, it's mixed. And that's it. That's all it takes to mix it up. So then, let's see, I had my recipe book here. I don't do this as often as I'd like to do. So I'm just reading here. Let's see, okay, I already mixed it. Yeah, that's it. So we're gonna go ahead and do the tap release. I'm just going to take the measuring cup, fill that up with water so my spatula doesn't stick. It's already getting started to knead there. You see it dance around, you just kind of keep pushing it down. And what you're looking for is a spongy texture. It just kind of, you should be able to push it down and it should kind of spring up. And that's how you know, and it should be also pretty stretchy too. It'll get better as we continue to knead it. Here we go again. See that? Oh yeah, I think this is gonna be a good ratio to flour and water as is. You can see how the dough just wants to jump right up off the blades. And that's a good sign. Because that's how we're going to get the entire dough ball out of here. We're just going to knead it until it jumps up on top of the blades and then throw it right in the pan. Super simple. You know, I have the Mata machine. I mostly make the bread in the Mata machine. It's basically the same thing, but you just don't have the tap release thing. Tap release is basically you just pulse in the motor, and that's what essentially you do with the new ones. Yeah, that's pretty much a done deal. I'll do this about 2 more times, and then we'll just take it and throw it in the pan. I'm gonna lubricate the pan. I'll lubricate the pan, turn the oven on, and then I'll let, while the oven gets up to temperature, this this dough should rise quite a bit, and it'll be ready for baking. Here we go, last time. All right, so I want to lubricate the pan. I just take and give it a good spray. Make sure you spray as much as you can on every corner, because this bread is going to definitely want to stick. I'm going to get this out of the way. Okay, the pan is there. Now we're just going to take the dough and throw it in here. It'll be very simple. All right, and there it is. I don't have that much dough left, because you're gonna have some that's underneath the blades. You just kind of take the spatula and just put it all into a corner, and then scrape it all. Here, let me do this number. Unplug my machine so I'm not having any kitchen catastrophes. Trying to get all this dough in there because I want to get the best value. The best value. I have a bread maker too, a regular electric tongue twisted. I have an electric bread maker. And that thing is a freaking mess to clean. Like, I like it, but cleaning it really does suck. And trying to get all the dough out isn't really the most fun. But with the bread maker, I used past tense, I used it to its fullest, where it would knead the dough and bake it inside. Because it was a 2-in-1 thing. So anyways, I'm just taking this wet spatula and just kind of pushing it to shape it up in there. This is all real time, by the way. I'm just going to cut the video because my oven is going to take a while to come up to temperature, as well as have this dough rise. So I'm going to splice the video into one thing, but all this right here is real time. You see, I ground up the flour, kneaded up the dough, and threw it in the pan in just minutes. Right, so I was reviewing my video, and my oven came up to temperature, which is 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is my loaf. It's already risen to where I need it to be. Okay. My timer is up. Shut up. Okay. Not you guys, my oven. And I'm gonna take my bread out and put it on this little cooling rack here. So I got my oven mitts, because it's gonna be really hot. Whoa, well, that's super hot. Just got a blast of heat in my face. Wow. There it is. Nice and golden brown crust. And I have to say that I've made this bread. I don't make this bread all that often, but I've been doing it for 5 years since I first got my first Vitamix. And this is definitely by far the nicest looking loaf I've ever made. It's the same recipe, but it's, for whatever reason, it just came out super, super wonderful looking. Okay, now enough of that excitement. We're gonna get it onto this here pseudo cooling rack. This is a grill accessory. You put vegetables in here so you can put them on the grill. I've never actually used it because I don't really grill all that much, let alone the vegetables. I will one day, but for right now I use it as a cooling rack. Oh wow, it actually fell out in one shot. And you just want to cool it off for about a half hour before you cut into it. But that is it. That is the loaf of whole wheat bread, 100% whole wheat. It's the Vitamix recipe that hasn't changed in decades. And I'm going to let that cool for a little while, and I'll show you what it looks like when I cut into it. All right, I let it cool for about half an hour. And it is nice and warm still. And we're gonna cut into it, see how it looks. Oh yeah, it's got a nice crust on it. Very nice. It's good to have a bread knife just for this purpose. Okay. That is how it looks on the inside there. Alright, not too many holes. It's good. I think this is going to be pretty good sandwich bread if I wanted to. I mostly enjoy this very simply with some peanut butter and some honey and coffee. That's pretty much the primary way I eat this, but I can sample it. Oh yeah. It is delicious. Nice and spongy on the inside. This is very nice, dense whole wheat bread. If you want a lighter bread, you can mix in maybe like a half cup of white flour, like all-purpose bread flour, or even do like a half and half if you want it to be lighter. But because I like it to be nutritionally dense, I just do 100% whole wheat, and this is really good. I'm gonna enjoy this with some peanut butter, honey, and coffee. So, if you want to make this, go ahead. You have the 3600 and 4000 Vitamix. You have the recipe. I showed you how to do it. It's real simple. Once you get used to how to do it, you can do this. You can get flour to the dough in like 5 minutes. Throw it in the pan, and like half hour, 40 minutes later, you got a nice loaf of bread like this. Very easy. All right, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with other tidbits and technical videos about the Vitamix 3600 4000.